Okay, I'm going to take the next two checklist questions. I'm going to bundle them together. The first is checklist item number 42. Do you know when to make your first hire? Checklist item number 43. Do you know what positions to hire for first? So you have to, in the marketplace, get somebody to quit their job and come work for a startup that is high risk. This is not an easy task. So let's assume you have three co-founders, right? You're going to have to assess, well, what do the three of you do really well? And are there any glaring holes in your team? So let's say you have two developers and somebody who is a great sales executive who's doing the fundraising, and they're the CEO, and one person's the CTO and the other person is the president. What are you missing? Maybe you're missing a designer, somebody who's great at UX. Maybe you're missing somebody who's great at customer support, customer happiness. You're going to have to look and decide who is the best person to help. It might be just another developer. It might be a sales executive because you have a great product and you need more people to sell it. So it's also going to cost money. So you might want to get the product to the point at which you've raised money, or you have your first 2 or 3 customers and you've got a little bit of money coming in. Because what you don't want is to have that person sitting there doing nothing. Or you don't want to hire somebody for so far below market that they quit. And so it can be a difficult thing to figure out. Once you've raised money, well, then you should start thinking about, hey, where do we need to be in 18 months? Hopefully you've raised 18 months of runway. Where do we need to be between 12 and 18 months when we start the fundraising process again? Will we be at break even and we don't need to raise money, or profitability? Will we be burning $50K a month but have 10 customers who are spending $10,000 a year with us? You want to really do a little bit of a plan there, and the plan will then dictate what you need. So if you're trying to get to $10,000 a month in recurring revenue, $1,000 a month per customer, 10 customers, well, you're going to need to sell those 10 customers. Well, you're going to need to have 2 salespeople if your salespeople sell 1 person every 2 months, or you're going to need 1 person if they sell 1 person a month. You get the idea. And so let's move on to checklist point number 43. Do you know what positions to hire for first? Okay, we've talked about that first hire. You really want to get somebody who is filling in basically for the 4th founder position or the 3rd founder position, and who's going to move the ball forward. Now, once you've raised money, now you have to start thinking about what positions you're going to hire first. Sometimes you're going to need to hire a lot of people in one group. If you are an AI company and you're doing machine learning, it's going to take 2 or 3 people, right? So you may need to hire them before you do anything else because you're pre-product market fit and you cannot get the product complete without those 3. And you're going to need to think about, well, when are you going to start the sales process and the marketing process? One of the most frustrating things for sales and marketing people is to come to a company before they have product market fit, before they've finished the product, because they're going to sit there twiddling their thumbs. What do I do? Write marketing materials? What do I do? Create ad creative when we haven't finished the product? It's incredibly frustrating. Same thing would be true for a customer support rep. Well, if there's no customers, what's the rep going to do? Be very careful to not hire too early. Conversely, if you've got the sales team out there selling and you don't have customer success and customer support in yet, you are quickly going to be faced with churning customers. This is where a plan comes into place. If you make a plan for how many customers you're going to have, how many you're going to add each month, well, you've set a target. I want to add 2 customers a month. Okay. Our sales executives can land 10 meetings a week at scale, but they ramp up to that. So let's just put it at 20. We'll cut it in half. They're going to do 5 meetings, 1 a day. We think that's what we can book. Okay. We know that every 20 results in 1 sale. So we need 2 salespeople. Over time, great salespeople will become more efficient. Maybe they'll get 30 meetings and therefore they'll start signing 1 or 2 customers a month. Okay, great. So you can kind of model that. You also know that salespeople turn over quickly because in a lot of cases, they might not be missionaries. They might be mercenaries. And so you might expect a little bit of a higher turnover rate. Therefore, you're going to say for every 3 sales executives, we expect 1 to not make it past 3 to 6 months. Therefore, our hiring plan is to hire 6 salespeople to get to 4. And if we happen to get to 6, we'll be delighted. That means we have to hire 1 every month for 6 months, so that in month 7, we have 4 up and running, landing 2 customers. If we are, in fact, landing 2 customers each and we have 8 coming in a month, we're going to hit this amount of revenue, and we're going to need ballpark, 1 customer success person for every 10 new customers a month. Great. And we're going to need to have a customer support rep. You get the idea. You're going to really want to think through a plan. And when you have a plan like that, the goals you set in the plan will determine the resources needed. In other words, the human resources needed, the positions needed. Some you can outsource, most of them you cannot. Accounting you can, legal you can, HR you can, like sales you can't. So keep that in mind. If you can outsource, certainly accounting, legal are always, and human resources are almost universally today outsourced in the first 2 years. Okay. When you're starting out, people tend to hire generalists and then specialists. What do I mean by this? The first 5 employees at a company tend to do 3, 4, 5 jobs each. Then over time, you get to 50 employees, and those 30 skills, you tend to have 1 or 2 or 3 people working on each one. What's an example? Well, when you're starting out, you might have an operations person. They might do HR. They might do the accounting. They might do legal. They might do fundraising. And they might manage the office if you had an office. And they might also do IT. Company hits scale. You tend to have an IT manager, an HR department with 3 people in it. You'll have an accounting firm, maybe an internal bookkeeper. You get the idea. If you're ambitious, it's great to be an early employee at a company because the generalists get to do so many jobs. However, if you do not quickly become a specialist, you will get replaced by a specialist. That's why you see some people who do 4 years at companies and then go to another startup. Why? They like the 0 to 1 function, going from no product to having a launch product, from no customers to a customer. And that's okay. Those generalists are awesome in the world, but they tend not to be specialists. They may not like to do one thing 50 hours a week, which is what you need at scale. Okay, so what do you need early? You really need developers and product managers early. What don't you need? HR, lawyers, PR. That stuff comes later, and you can outsource that stuff. Keep in mind the bar raiser hiring process at Amazon. Every person you hire should be better than 50% of those in similar roles. Basically, the concept of hiring is, if you have the resources, you want to hire people who you can learn from as the founder. So I always try to hire sales executives or operational people who have done more of that than me. Now, I'm 50 years old. I've done a lot of this stuff. So the chances of, as you get older and wiser and you got more scar tissue and you've done it multiple times, the chances of having somebody you can learn from as in a hire goes down. But I still find them, and it's really great when I do. So hire those bar raisers, especially if you're a first-time founder. And when I was a first-time founder, I had Carol Martesco, Elliot Cook, a lot of people around me who knew much more than I did about running companies, Joanne Wilson. And they basically were able to pull me up and say, hey, schmuck, here's how this works. And I'd say, oh, thanks. I had no idea what the difference between accrual and cash-based accounting was. And they had been through that 10 times. And they're like, do this, do this, do this. And I was like, okay, I'll just listen to them. And it was great for me.